time I'm waiting you to answer the phone. Nothing seems to happen but...
Hello and welcome back to Friday Reads, where we help you find your next read. I'm Jill.
And I'm Julie. And as you know, we've been traveling around the United States with our book picks. And this week we landed in the Northeast. We came up the East Coast from the South, and here we are. So, Jill, what's your first pick for a book that takes place
So my
in the
first
Northeast?
one is going to Vermont. This is called Radio Free Vermont, A Fable of Resistance. This might be the only copy of this book in the Info Soup system, so you'll have to put it on hold, but I thought it was an interesting choice. Author is Bill McKibben. It was published in 2017. As the host of Radio Free Vermont, underground, underpowered, and underfoot, 72-year-old Vern Barclay is currently broadcasting from an undisclosed and double-secret location. With the help of a young computer prodigy named Perry Alterson, Vern uses his radio show to advocate for a simple yet radical idea, an independent Vermont, one where the state secedes from the United States and operates under a free local economy. But for now, he and his radio show must remain untraceable, because in addition to being a lifelong Vermonter and concerned citizen, Vern Barclay is also a fugitive from the law. In Radio Free Vermont, Bill McKibben entertains and expands upon an idea that's become more popular than ever, seceding from the United States. Along with Vern and Perry, McKibben imagines an eccentric group of activists who carry out their own version of guerrilla warfare, which includes dismissing local middle school children early in honor of Ethan Allen Day and hijacking a Coors Light truck and replacing the stock with local brew. Witty, biting, and terrifyingly timing, Radio Free Vermont is Bill McKibben's fictional response to the burgeoning resistance movement that I didn't know existed.
Interesting pick. My first pick is probably a book that's familiar to a lot of you. It is Jodi Picoult's My Sister's Keeper. This was published back in 2004, and the story takes place in the fictional town of Upper Darby, Rhode Island. Anna is not sick, but she might as well be. By age 13, she has undergone countless surgeries, transfusions, and shots so that her older sister Kate can somehow fight the leukemia that has plagued her since childhood. The product of pre-implementation genetic diagnosis, Anna was conceived as a bone marrow match for Kate, a life and a role that she has never challenged until now. Like most teenagers, Anna is beginning to question who she truly is. But unlike most teenagers, she has always been defined in terms of her sister. And so Anna makes a decision that for most would be unthinkable, a decision that will tear her family apart and have perhaps fatal consequences for the sister she loves. My Sister's Keeper examines what it means to be a good parent, a good sister, a good person. Is it morally correct to do whatever it takes to save a child's life, even if that means infringing upon the rights of another? Is it worth trying to discover who you really are if that quest makes you like yourself less? We all know Jodi Picoult tackles controversial real-life subjects with grace, wisdom, and sensitivity. So, My Sister's Keeper.
Her books always leave you something to think about, like...
Absolutely.
So great.
Absolutely.
So then we're going to Connecticut, and I think when you think of Connecticut, you think about, like, perfect families and things like that. So I have something to challenge that. The Last Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine. This is a thriller, and it has a twist that will... I don't know. I enjoyed it. Amber Patterson is fed up. She's tired of being a nobody, a plain, invisible woman who blends into the background. She deserves more, a life of money and power, more like the blonde-haired, blue-eyed goddess Daphne Parrish takes for granted. To everyone in the exclusive town of Bishop's Harbor, Connecticut, Daphne, a socialite and philanthropist, and her real estate muggle husband Jackson are a couple straight out of a fairy tale. Amber's envy could eat her alive if she didn't have a plan. Amber uses Daphne's compassion and caring to insinuate herself into the family's life, the first step in a meticulous scheme to undermine her. Before long, Amber is Daphne's closest confidant, traveling in Europe with the Parishes and their lovely young daughters and growing closer to Jackson. But a skeleton from her past may undermine everything that Amber has worked toward, and if that is discovered, her well-laid plan might fall to pieces. For other reasons, too. This is a fun book.
I didn't read that one. Maybe I'll have to check that one out. My second pick is a classic, The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne, published way back in 1850. Set in 17th century Puritan Boston, Massachusetts during the years 1642 to 1649. Tells the story of Hester Prynne, who conceives a daughter through an affair and will not reveal her lover's identity. The Scarlet Letter, A for adultery, she has to wear on her clothes, along with her public shaming, is her punishment for her sin and her secrecy. She struggles to create a new life of repentance and dignity. Throughout this book, Hawthorne explores themes of legalism, sin, and guilt. So if you haven't checked out or read The Scarlet Letter in a lot of years, maybe you want to go back and read that.
It's been a while for that one. So my next place, I'm going to Maine, which I think that's where Stephen King is from. But we have a modern-day Stephen King, I think, and this book is set in Maine. The Only One Left by Riley Sager. Some of you might be Riley Sager fans. This is his newest book, or her newest book. I'm not sure if Riley's a male or a female. Now reduced to a schoolyard chant, the Hope family murders shocked the Maine coast one bloody night in 1929. While most people assume 17-year-old Lenora was responsible, the police were never able to prove it, other than her denial after the killings. She has never spoken publicly about that night, nor has she set foot outside of Hope's End, the cliffside mansion where the massacre occurred. Now, in 1983, the home health aide Kit McDear arrives at a decaying Hope's End to care for Lenora after her previous nurse fled in the middle of the night. In her 70s and confined to a wheelchair, Lenora was rendered mute by a series of strokes and can only communicate with Kit by tapping out sentences on an old typewriter. One night, Lenora uses it to make a tantalizing offer. I want to tell you everything. As Kit helps Lenora write about the events leading up to the Hope family massacre, it becomes clear there's more to the tale than people know. But when new details about her predecessor's departure come to light, Kit starts to suspect Lenora might not be telling the complete truth, and that the seemingly harmless woman in her care could be far more dangerous than she thought.
Did you read that one?
No, I haven't.
I read that one. I liked that one. I'm a fan of Riley Sager's. My third pick is a Pulitzer Prize winner, and this is Olive Kittredge by Elizabeth Strout, published back in 2008. At times stern, at other times patient, at times perceptive, at other times in sad denial, Olive Kittredge, a retired schoolteacher, deplores the changes in her little town of Crosby, Maine, also in Maine, and in the world at large, but she doesn't always recognize the changes in those around her. A lounge musician haunted by a past romance, a former student who has lost the will to live, Olive's own adult child who feels tyrannized by her irrational sensitivities, and her husband, Henry, who finds his loyalty to his marriage both a blessing and a curse. As the townspeople grapple with their problems, mild and dire, Olive is brought to a deeper understanding of herself and her life, sometimes painfully, but always with ruthless honesty. And they turned this into an HBO miniseries with Frances McDormand, who's in the corner down here. I didn't watch that at all, but
No, but I like Frances McDormand.
yeah, she's always great in everything. So check out Olive Kittredge.
So my next one, I'm going to New York. I thought I could fill this whole thing with New York City books, but I only have two, and this is one of them. It's off our new books. A Likely Story by Lee McGullen Abramson. The only child of an iconic American novelist discovers a shocking tangle of family secret that upends everything she thought she knew about her parents, her gilded childhood, and her own stalled writing career in this brilliantly observed standout debut of family secrets and the cost of protecting a legacy. Growing up in the 90s in New York City as the only child of famous parents was both a blessing and a curse for Isabel Manning. Her beautiful society hostess mother, Claire, and New York Times bestselling author father, Ward, were a city's intellectual it couple. Ward's glamorous obligation often took him away from Isabel, but Claire made sure her childhood was always filled with magic and love. Now an adult, all Isabel wants is to be a successful writer like her father, but after many false starts and an unexpected death of her mother, she faces her upcoming 35th birthday alone and on the verge of a breakdown. Her anxiety only skyrockets when she uncovers some shocking truths about her parents and begins wondering if everything she knew about her family was all based on an elaborate lie. So, yeah, likely story. I like books about writers.
Yeah. My next pick is Jennifer McMahon's The Winter People. This was published in 2014. This takes place in West Hall, Vermont. It's always been a town of strange disappearances and old legends. The most mysterious is that of Sarah Harrison Shea, who in 1908 was found dead in the field behind her house just months after the tragic death of her daughter. Now, in present day, 19-year-old Ruthie lives in Sarah's farmhouse with her mother, Alice, and her younger sister. Alice has always insisted that they live off the grid, a decision that has weighty consequences when Ruthie wakes up one morning to find that Alice has vanished. In her search for clues, she is startled to find a copy of Sarah Harrison Shea's diary hidden beneath the floorboards of her mother's bedroom. As Ruthie gets sucked into the historical mystery, she discovers that she's not the only person looking for someone that they've lost, but she may be the only one who can stop history from repeating itself. So, if you're interested in this, Winter People.
Vermont does make me think of winter.
Yeah, it does.
So back in New York again. In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle. This was published in 2020. When a type A Manhattan lawyer, Danny Cohen, is asked this question at the "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" asked this question when the most important interview of her career, she has meticulously crafted an answer at the ready. Later, after nailing her interview and accepting her boyfriend's marriage proposal, she goes to sleep knowing she's right on track for that 5-year plan. But when she wakes up, she's suddenly in a different apartment with a different ring on her finger and beside a very different man. The television news is on in the background, and she can just make out the scrolling date. It's the same night, December 15th, but 2025, 5 years in the future. After a very intense, shocking hour, Danny wakes again at the brink of midnight, back in 2020. She can't shake what's happened. It certainly felt much more than merely a dream, but she isn't the kind of person who believes in visions. That nonsense is only charming coming from free-spirited types like her lifelong best friend Bella. Determined to ignore the odd experience, she files it away in the back of her mind. That is until 4.5 years later, when a chance Danny meets the very same man from her long-ago vision. So, in 5 years.
My last pick comes out of our biography section, actually, and this, again, is a book you're probably familiar with. I read this book when it came out, and I love this book. Tuesdays with Maury by Mitch Albom. This was published back in 1997. The setting of this book is Maury's home in West Newton, Massachusetts. Maybe it was a grandparent or a teacher or a colleague, someone older, patient, and wise, who understood you when you were young and searching and gave you sound advice to help you make your way through it. For Mitch Albom, that person was Maury Schwartz, his college professor from nearly 20 years ago. Maybe like Mitch, you lost track of this mentor as you made your way and the insights faded. Wouldn't you like to see that person again? Ask the bigger questions that still haunt you? Mitch Albom had that second chance. He rediscovered Maury in the last months of the older man's life. Knowing he was dying of ALS, Mitch visited Maury in his study every Tuesday. Thus the title. Just as they used to back in college. Their rekindled relationship turned into one final class, Lessons in How to Live. So maybe you want to revisit Tuesdays with Maury.
That's a great book.
I love that book.
So we hope that we gave you some ideas on what to read if you want to visit the literature-rich East Coast.
There was a lot to offer up in the Northeast. We're going to head further north next week, and we're going to take a shot at picking books that take place up in Canada.
Leaving the country next week. So
we're traveling abroad. You can find our videos on our Facebook page, on the Kimberly Public Library website, and we'd love to hear what you're reading this fall. So like, comment, share. We'd love to hear from you. But until then, we thank you for watching. Bye.